The first time that I met my dear friend Michael Romanowski was in an online audio engineering society meeting during the pandemic. And it was around the topic of mastering in immersive audio. And it was organized by our mutual friend, past president of the AES, incredible engineer himself, Jonathan Weiner. And it involved myself and Jonathan as a moderator, Michael, and Darcy Proper, another absolutely inspiring master engineer from the community. With, Michael and Darcy have this immense discography and history as leaders in the world of surround and immersive audio mastering. And Jonathan reached out to me and was like, oh, this is going to be a panel. And to be honest with you, I mean, in that moment, I'd been doing a lot of work, specifically in the Atmos format and 5.1 before that. But still to this day, I look at Michael and Darcy and Jonathan, and these are folks that I consider mentors. I mean, really, people who have bared the torch of audio production and led the way for someone like myself. And I've just looked up to them for my whole career. And the idea that we would get to come together and have a conversation was just an absolute delight for me. And so I spent a lot of time preparing for that meeting. I prepared 50, 60 slides of information about the things that I had gathered around specifically Atmos, because at that time, 2020, I think, the reason that Jonathan organized this was that there wasn't a ton of public knowledge, other than some of the knowledge that someone like Michael had shared through the producer and engineering wing of the Grammys and through the Audio Engineering Society. So anyways, we met online on Zoom. And I just want to put in perspective, like in that moment, we're meeting online. Michael at this point and Darcy, I mean, these are Grammy-winning engineers. And here I am, this engineer from Toronto who's clearly passionate and knowledgeable and is, coming up in the world. And from the very first moment that I met Michael online in that capacity, there was a warmth and a welcoming attitude and presence. And the same with Darcy. And the same with Jonathan. We sat down in this meeting and immediately, it's hard to express, but you come into these things, meeting your heroes and wondering, how to involve yourself in that capacity. And so most of the time you just sit back and listen and out of respect, but also just out of wanting to learn. And focused on Michael here, Michael is someone who immediately, even though that we were on the internet over a screen, it felt like someone who just reached out and just gave me a hug and said, come on in, be a part of this discussion, feel comfortable, be yourself. I want to learn who you are. I want to know what you know. And let's just work together to make the best possible AES presentation we could. And it was like all of the butterflies in the stomach just immediately were dissipated. And that's not necessarily an easy thing to do. Like myself, even as an educator, I do my best in life to try to create that environment. As a producer, as an educator, for anybody I'm working with, you want everybody to feel comfortable. But something that Michael is he has an amazing gift for is the ability to inspire the people around him to feel comfortable, to be themselves, and to uplift them and to be inspired as an individual to collaborate and feel open and comfortable. And I really, from the very moment we met, I've admired that about him and been very grateful for it. So we had this wonderful meeting. I'll remember it for the rest of my life, of just getting to talk again with my heroes here about all these things. And we're talking back and forth about Atmos and the things that we learned and the things that we didn't know yet and the things that were very confusing. I mean, at this stage, Apple, it must have been 2021 actually, because Apple had now come out with spatial audio. So it has to be 2021. And at a certain point, I was like, hey, can I share these slides that I've been preparing? And I shared all these slides and all this information. Anyone who's followed me on YouTube knows at a certain point, this kind of amalgamated into a 3.5-hour video on this topic. And again, it was one of those things where both Michael and Darcy were like, hey, can you send these over? Like, we want to review them. And over the next week, we were going back and forth, text messaging, having phone calls, calling Michael, calling Darcy, talking. Hey, okay, this is fascinating. This is my findings. What about this? What about this? And immediately I got to know Michael as somebody that even at that point is, again, like a Grammy-winning engineer, celebrated at the highest level of immersive audio already at that stage of his career. And here we are, just like passionately just wanting to know, how does this work and how can we best serve music with it? And how can we share it with the community? That's the thing, is I do think that in the past, in various, not just in music, in many industries, there hasn't always been the attitude of, okay, let's figure it out and then let's share that information. And, not saying that's for better or for worse, but I am saying that as somebody who was welcomed in by someone like Michael and then asked to be given a seat at the table to share, it meant the world to me. It still means the world to me. It gave me the confidence to say that I belong and that my passion for something means something and that can actually be meaningful to others. And Michael is someone who shone that light. He'll go into a room and just shine it as bright as possible to say, hey folks, this is interesting, this is valuable. Whatever has brought him to his life in that moment to understand it is not wanting to keep it to himself, but rather say, how can we best serve the community in this way? And the more that I've learned about Michael over the years, the more that I have just seen that light get brighter and brighter and brighter. And to be standing beside him, to watch that light shine. And then again, Michael's the kind of person that says, hey, here's the light, hold it for a second. You shine it, you have something to share that's valuable. If you have something to share, share it. And it is amazing. It's for me, it was life-changing. So we go through this AES online thing. It was a blast. It was a really lovely dialogue. I think it was an important part for the community at that moment, who were all looking at the various aspects of how Atmos was being brought into the world, which was very, very confusing for so many reasons. This won't be a history lesson on the dissemination of immersive audio consumer formats, but right at that moment, then the next time I get to meet Michael is in person at the Audio Engineering Society conference, which I believe, if I'm not mistaken, was, it ended up being in a different time of year because they were, or whatever it was at the Javits Center in New York. And I got there the day before to do a sound check. It was certainly the first one after the pandemic. And so they were like, hey, we really want to get the sound check stuff together, especially with the immersive systems. So I got there and I had texted Michael again and said, hey, do you happen to be in New York? Are you attending the Audio Engineering Society conference? And he's like, hey, yeah, I'm here. I'm actually in the Neumann room. And I'm doing some mastering right now, because for those of you who know, when we leave for a conference, one of the challenges of an immersive system is that we're leaving our studios behind. And so Michael had helped the Neumann folks to tune their whole room and then was actually sitting there in the middle. I remember it, sitting with his laptop and listening and doing work. So I popped over, kind of just popped my head in the back. And that's the first time I got to see him in person. And again, the energy of someone of his credibility, his stature in the industry is just immediately like, it's so good to see you. Come on in. How are you? This is what we're doing. Like, I'm excited that you're here. And that inviting energy, again, is just something like, for someone like me in my position, it'd be so easy to be like, hey, cool, yeah, great to see you. Like, hope to see you around the conference. That'd be totally fine. But it's just not who Michael is. Michael creates this energy where you just feel immediately at ease and immediately at home. And again, like that sense of belonging somewhere. And it's a very, very special thing. It's so encouraging. So we fast forward, Michael and I, that particular AES conference, I literally just sat in the Neumann room the entire time. I did my presentation and I just sat there. And Michael had curated the entire thing to involve so many of his colleagues, whether it be George Massenburg and Ronald Prent and Eric Schilling and Darcy. My memory here in the sense, I said Eric and Anne Mincelli and all of these incredible folks coming to present their work. And I just sat in awe. But again, this was Michael saying, rather than creating a platform for himself, it was creating a platform for art, creating a platform for critical discussion, creating a platform for critical listening and learning. Not just for the folks who already understood it to get together and have a private club, but rather to say, no, let's work together, industry, engineers, artists, people at the beginning of their careers, students, people who are at the end of their careers but want to learn about what this new technology can do, and to facilitate all of that and put all of his heart into making a safe space for people to have dialogue. And my life changed in those 3 days of sitting there, just sitting and being able to see those folks present their work at the highest level with a proper speaker system, and then to be able to ask questions and to be able to offer opinions and say, hey, this has been my experience. And to feel the confidence to even do that, which was very much based on the environment that Michael created. I left that conference as a different person. And I think it's in that moment. So again, I'm kind of spacing on the years right now. I should have thought about it before making this video, but we can go back and figure out when it was. But that first AES conference after the pandemic, I left that space having come in. I've already been working in the Atmos format for quite some time. Those of you know my own personal journey, having worked on hundreds and hundreds of songs at that point and developed a lot of aesthetics around my relationship with the technology. But I think somewhere, if I think back to it, that's the point, I think, where the music of Immersed began in my mind. Is, yes, like not only do I want to contribute to this in the way that I'm watching all of my colleagues and mentors and heroes do, but I hear something and I feel something. And I think Michael's the kind of person that inspired the confidence to say this matters and this can matter and this can be real. It's not that often that you meet someone in your life who's going to do that for you, who's going to go out of their way to share what they have and shine the light on you. It's a big deal. It's a big deal. And so as we fast forward and continue to fast forward, the next opportunity is, I think, at NAMM. Also the first one. I think NAMM was the one actually that had moved in terms of the dates. And Michael reached out and said, hey, I really loved, I loved meeting you. I loved, getting to know you a little bit at the last conference. Would you like to have a slot to present alongside Sylvia and George and again, the names right now, Elliot Shiner, are you kidding me? It was like Leslie Ann Jones, because she's on the West Coast, so Leslie's going to be there. Here's this list of folks who are going to be presenting their immersive works. And Frank Filippetti, Frank. I mean, I have all these discs. I have these discs. I study their work. I adore their work. I have for a decade or more. And he said, hey, would you like to do a slot? Why don't you bring what you're working on and share it? And again, I think for Michael, it was just like, hey, you care, come, be a part of this. And again, I cannot say, it's something that I think sometimes as a professional, I don't express that often, because sometimes, you need to put on a jacket and a tie and just feel confident and feel like you belong and not fan out too hard, but I'm just fanning out the whole time. I can't even believe this is happening. And so, of course, those who know me, I do the work, I put in the work, I put in the time, I prepare, I bring put my best foot forward in everything that I do. And the opportunity to do that, I remember that first one, Michael sat there and he brought some of folks that I consider, they're not mentors in the sense that they never signed up to be my mentors, but they are my mentors because I've studied their work, studied their careers, studied everything that they've done. And again, just a moment in life where it was Michael's energy at the center of all of this that is bringing people together to share. And now to have me as a part of that platform, I'm at a loss of words to be able to describe what that means. How much it changes you on the inside to have the confidence to reach. And it's not, it's not that I don't have confidence. Like at that point in my career, I've been very blessed to do a lot. I'm, full-time professor, like all those things are part of my life. But this is, this is Los Angeles. It's obviously it's in Anaheim, but the community at the highest possible level. And for Michael to do that was, again, the gratitude that I have for those moments in my life, they never leave me. And what I say is like the privilege that is my responsibility when I've been given this great honor is to honor that by A, passing it on and being a part of that communal sharing, which I do my best to follow in Michael's footsteps to do. And B is to do the work and to honor the work and to honor those people, and including Michael, and absolutely present it the best I can. So as we continue through, now all of a sudden at AES once a year and at NAMM once a year, Michael and I are starting to have conversations. Even like last year, we went down to Mexico together for the Pan American Audio Educators Conference. Really just developing a relationship, and to be able to develop a relationship with someone, for me, like a mentor, who's also a friend and a colleague, is so inspiring. When you, again, that analogy of someone shining a light into a dark room and saying, hey, everybody, here it is. Saying, hey, Justin, come along. I want to develop this relationship, but also here's the torch. You hold it for a bit and sit back. I'll sit back and kind of hear what you have to say. This is a remarkable way of embracing community and sharing with the world that Michael possesses, and it's inspired so many. I'm one branch of this beautiful tree, and the magnitude of it is quite gigantic. Even trying to describe it right now, I'm, maybe tripping over words from time to time just because of how much it means and how valuable his contributions to our community are and continue to be and will be, let alone what has happened already. So then in and along the process of the Immersed album, and I say that because right now, I just had the honor of standing on stage with Michael Romanowski and Drew Jureka. Morton Lindbergh wasn't there, but also involved in the project. And we won a Grammy Award together. It still is absolutely something that I can't fully comprehend. And maybe this exercise of kind of trying to share it is almost a therapeutic process of trying to unpack what that represents. And I think really at the core of it, of course, like there's the musicianship and there's all of the things that I put in and the community of musicians put in, that Drew put in as a co-producer, that Morton Lindbergh put in as a co-producer. And of course, technically, Michael's mastery as a mastering engineer, what he did. But deeper than that, at a core level, I think Michael was that person who turned the light on in the room and said, go for it. I believe in you. I hear what you're doing. It's important, it's valuable, and it can matter. And that is sometimes as artists what we need. I didn't need more knowledge. I didn't need necessarily more even musical inspiration. It's actually just a deeper level of someone just kind of seeing you and saying, go for it. And knowing that they're there for you, that they're going to shine that light as you try to forge through something. So Michael Romanowski is one of the first people that I told about the Immersed project. It's fascinating. There's two Michaels that I told first. One is the co-director of the film, Michael Fisher, who I will make an equally long video about at some point, and Michael Romanowski. And I said to Michael, I'm working on this thing. It's music that I'm composing for the format, that I'm writing for the format. And all I want to know, I don't even know why I'm asking you now, because mastering engineers do not need to know 2.5 years in advance or 3 years in advance of mastering something. But I think what it was is I wanted to reciprocate to Michael and say, Michael, I want to do this, but it would be really helpful to me to know, are you on my team? And if he'd said, no, I'm busy, or, I need to hear the music first, totally makes sense. But his friends and even his wife, Emily, is so sweet. I had a chance to meet her last year and this year, and unbelievable family and unbelievable person. But anyways, they call him Romo. So I typically say Michael, but in this case, Romo, Michael, he like, it's a yes, but not a like, yeah, call me when the time comes. It's a yes and. It's a yes and tell me more. It's a yes and keep in touch at any point through this process. Because as much as Michael is a mastering engineer, which, the process comes at the end, right? It's the end of the journey. His presence is infused throughout the process. And I did check in with him. In fact, we played some early files at a NAMM conference at least 1.5 years before the record was done. I was doing a playback session with Michael and our many colleagues, and I chose to play one song that had reached enough, and I think I was just kind of externalizing it to see what was up, and Michael was there. And I think for both of us, that was a light bulb moment where he was like, first of all, I think he was also like, wait a second. We're both bass players, Michael and I. But at that point, I hadn't really been externalizing that to the audio engineering community. He's like, wait a minute, like, you're a serious bass player and musician. Like, what's going on here? Like, this is amazing. And again, that moment, which I also shared with Drew, and I also had a very, very important moment where Morten Lindberg, when he came into the project, also gave that, like, again, it's like you're on a team. And of course, as the lead artist, the lead kind of this project, I'm the one who has to keep pushing that boulder all night. But when you look to your left, you look to your right, and those are the folks who are there saying, like, yeah, you got this. And if you need a little help, I'll help. That is everything in life, right? Like, that's what it is when it comes to being about community, is when community shows up. And when your community is Michael Romanowski and Morten Lindberg and Drew Jureka and the musicians involved and the film folks involved and the engineers involved, these insane amounts of talent, it's easy to just keep putting one foot in front of the other, no matter what it takes. It's because it's infused with so much inspiration. And so Michael was there throughout this whole time. Check in, how's it going? Oh, hey, can I hear something here or there? And I got him the record with a lot of time to spare, in the sense that I wanted to give it to him, not say, hey, let's pump this out. I was like, I want you to observe this for what it is, and I want you to be able to master it however you want, when you want. As a mastering engineer myself, it's something we almost never get to do. But I was like, I want you to just take this and listen to it and choose what it is that you want to do, and have time to bring yourself to the project in the way that you feel, because I just admire what he does so much. And I've studied it a lot, like, because I've studied the works of Leslie and Jones, for instance. The soundtrack of The American Soldier, which he mastered and Leslie so masterfully mixed and recorded at Skywalker. And then I believe Dan is the producer on. I mean, it's a reference recording for me. His work with George and Eric and Ann on the Alicia's 2 albums. The work with Herbert Waddle and Eric, specifically, some of the stuff in 360 playback. It's reference material for me. It's the best. To me, it's the best examples of immersive audio. And I'm not saying it's the only ones, but I'm just focused on Michael here. I want to say I've done my very, very, very best. I have put this through its paces in every capacity, but here. And again, as a mastering engineer now into the technical parts, Michael has so much wisdom and so much experience, vast, vast experience, to be able to sit with it and find the path of least resistance, to know just that harmonic detail that needs to be addressed rather than ripping it apart, just if we go here, everything opens up. If we do this and open up the top, it affects the whole harmonic spectrum. I mean, this is, it's master craftsmanship. And so when I get the masters back, they're done. I mean, and then of course we also did the same thing for the stereo as a separate project. So after all of this, like through the friendship, the camaraderie, Michael being a mentor, but also a colleague, but also a cheerleader for me. But then when it comes down to it, the craft is the craft, right? And Michael excels in his craft to such incredible heights that as a mastering engineer myself, I can observe and admire and say, wow, like this is exactly what the mastering process is supposed to do for an artist and a producer and engineer. It's supposed to be that thing that when you get it back, everything disappears and the music is left. And there's no doubt. And there's only ease and just pure love for the thing. And that's what I experienced. And then as a mastering engineer, it's very normal to be like, okay, like, cool, the project's done, here it is, like, that's the exchange. But with Michael, and again, our friendship, it's continued. We toured the film to LA and San Francisco, and Michael was behind getting the community in San Francisco to come and listen in the incredible Dolby facility. And we've done online seminars together, and we've done presentations together at AES, and other opportunities to continue sharing, rather than saying, okay, this is done now. It's like, no, this is done, but how can this continue to give back? How can this continue to be a part of uplifting everything? And this is I think the fire that burns within Michael to drive that again makes it really easy for me to say, okay, yeah, I'm in. Or for me to say, hey, Michael, I'd like to go to Europe. I'd like to do the playback with Stefan Bach, who's our colleague and also the owner of the label. I'd like to connect with Morten, who's our, both of our friend and colleague, but again, for me, like an idol and a hero. And go up to Kolding, Denmark and go do some educational stuff together. Where in that particular trip, we also were met on the train with our friend Hans Martin Buff. And that train ride, I mean, everyone there was nominated for a Grammy together. I mean, this is like, for me, this is stuff of fairy tales. I remember sitting on that train being, okay, Hans Martin is there, first time we're meeting in person. And actually, that's not true. We met in London, but the first time that we were really, getting to have a nice long chat, and Morten is there and Michael's there. And I mean, we're all nominated together, but I'm still having my moments of just fanning out. Just like, oh my gosh, how is this happening? Like, I need to take a photo just so that I can remember how incredible this is. And I feel so blessed to be in those positions. I really do. I know what a privilege it is. And again, I think the way that we honor that, the way that Michael honors that, is not to keep it, but rather to share it and to say, how can this energy that has been shared in one direction now multiply and share outwards? And so to go through that and to have that support, that friendship, and the master craftsman that Michael is like, what a dream. What an amazing opportunity, and what a just something that I'm deeply grateful for. I hope I've been able to express that. And then to go to the Grammys together and have Michael there with Emily, his wife, and Natalie, mine, and Drew. We were missing Morten, but for us to be able to go there, sit together, be present, but also celebrate our fellow nominees who we adore. We spent that whole week going out to dinner together, hanging out. I mean, our community, Andres and Martin and Hans, and Morten wasn't there, but also Andrew Law. We had a chance to meet Andrew and the artist Duckworth he was working with, like just trying to say, hey, this is about community. And it is, and it's not a performative thing. It's about living it. It's about building that. And Michael is someone who, just carries that torch so effortlessly and in a way that inspires those around him. And to stand on stage together, to go through the process of winning a Grammy together, of course, is something I will cherish for the rest of my life. But it's only one moment, actually. And I think that, this is the kind of stuff that can't be said on a stage in a speech. You get your 45 seconds and there's this giant red counter there. But yeah, I kind of wanted to just take a moment to document my gratitude, my love, and my admiration for a friend, mentor, and master craftsman, Michael Romanowski. Thanks, Michael.